What's up? I'm Dan Random, and today I'm doing the inner and outer tie rod ends on my 2004 Dodge Stratus RT. So I started removing this cotter pin, get it the rest of the way out there. This is a 17 millimeter, but I'm not ready to take that off yet. First, I want to unlock this nut here from this, and I also have to get this boot off because it looks good and I believe we are going to reuse it. So let's see about the back clip. Oh, I guess it's not on. Okay, I'm gonna have to get a little screwdriver and break this seal loose here, and then I think this will actually slide right down. My 7/8 wrench here broke it loose. Now, I also used the tip of my wrench to press this in to break it free. And I'm going to suggest that you lube everything up like this. And actually, you should probably just lube up this whole bar here so that we can slip the boot off easily. Get these things all undone easily. Let that soak for a minute. Now we can take this off. And then you can remove your outer tie rod end. Let's remove the nut and the clamp here, so then we can work on getting that boot off. Hopefully a pair of vice grips and a 7/8 inch deep socket here will get this off. So I was able to get that nut off of here with large vice grips, which I had to close with large pliers, and then use the power tool with the deep socket, and it was still rough. Now, it kind of looks like I might have a leak, like some kind of seal leak. I don't know too much about that though. I will look into that later, I guess. For now, I just need this thing to not be going jerk, 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 making all kinds of noises as I drive. I can deal with a little bit of power steering leak, or maybe I can even use some stop leak or Lucas or something. I'll look into it. Or that could also be some water that's drying up from me getting in and out of the pool because it's so hot today. Now I know you're supposed to count the turns when you take this off of here, but as you can see, it's pretty obvious where this thing is. Plus the alignment was off, steering wheel was crooked. The other tricks I've seen mechanics do too is when they loosen the nut up, or even behind the nut, it depends on what they're, how they want to keep track of it, they'll take a little hacksaw blade and just make a tiny little line. Like, it looks almost like somebody did that before in the past, maybe? But this boot had a zip tie on the back, so clearly somebody had already taken this apart because it wasn't that metal permanent one. So I have my tie rod kit here. This size here is the one that fits. I believe it's a 13/16. So then choose the right size tie rod socket here. Get that in place and slip your bar over the whole tie rod here, all the way up to the tool, and then we are ready to use the impact. And there we go. So here's the new one. As you can see, this doesn't want to move at all from me pressing on it. I know I'm only using one hand, but look at this one. So this did come with a new nut and a new one of these washers and some instructions if you care to read. So with this washer on here, which these two little notches that you see fit those two little notches that you see there, and then this just goes right in, and I'll need two hands to get those notches in place and to get this started. So the washer's in place. That's as tight as I can get by hand. So let's get our tool back on here. Slip our tool over the whole tie rod and tighten. Alright, now with that as tight as the Milwaukee gun would go, next just got the bellows on and secure the back with a zip tie. Now, as you can see, this new one's way longer than the old one, so counting the spins would not have done us much good. So I cleaned this up a little bit, got my zip tie ready. I didn't tighten it all the way, so I'm going to slip it in, clip off the excess if I can. Okay, I got that in, tightened it up. You'll hear a little pop when it goes over its lip. So it's all in place. Now I just have to get this guy back in place right around this little area here. Next we have to spin our new nut on here past where the new tie rod end is going to go. So let's just get it back here pretty far. Now just to get this new tie rod end in position. And of course I got to get that little clip back in place. I keep saying clip, but I mean clamp. So that's back in place. Now let's get the tie rod end. Oh yeah, that's nice and tight. The other one just flopped around. Now let's get this on. Also, I should mention this thing came with this little greaser thing here, and it came with a new jam nut, so I have an extra now. And also a new Castle nut and cotter pin. I realized that I never really moved this. I mean, I might have bumped it a tiny bit, but I don't even think so. So I backed that out to fit where this was and made sure that the post was kind of almost at the right angle. And it looks like it's straight. And I just checked the other wheel, and I actually parked it straight, and the steering wheel is almost straight. I mean, it was cocked a little bit to begin with, but I'm not sure if this would fix that if I put everything back to the original spots that everything was aligned to before. But regardless, I'm going to give it an alignment. So let's just tighten this thing up here, tighten this, get the cotter pin in, get the wheel back on, and see how bad she is. So before we take the car for a test drive, I just wanted to talk about a few things. First off, to get the boot off, because nobody had done the job before, I'm just going to assume, the metal band was still on in the back, and because of the way that the tie rod end comes through, I guess it's the subframe and some other parts, there's pretty much no room to get any tools all the way down in the hole, or to even look at anything, or to see where to get a tool into here to break that. So I grabbed the boot with both hands really hard and yanked until I pretty much fell back on the ground and hurt myself a little bit. But this came off intact, actually, and I got the boot off. Obviously the boot's not here because I reused it. Now these actually are in okay shape, they're not too bad. But when it came to getting this off, my kit has 3 sizes. So I have this, that, and that one over there. Now that one's pretty big. This one's on the smaller side, but almost fits. Now on the other side, I used this, but these were different because this was the original on the car, I believe, because of the boot never having been taken off with that metal band still being on it. So I had to use this larger one. Actually, it's the medium size one, but look at how it fits in there. It doesn't bite the sides. It's up in front of it kind of here. So that's why it tore this all up. But I realized that if I got a hose clamp and tightened it on here and used a tiny little ratchet to tighten it all the way up as tight as I could get it, I broke it loose with this breaker bar, and then I was able to get it the rest of the way out with a power tool. So this side was more challenging, but really it wasn't that bad. Figuring out the right methods and having, you know, decent tools. So let me take it out on the road now for a test drive. So as you can see, my steering wheel is a little bit crooked, but I can actually let go of the steering wheel here at, what are we doing, about 40? I have to touch it a tiny bit, but I mean, for the most part, let's get to 45, I'm not even touching it, it's drifting a tiny bit. So as you can see, I got the alignment pretty close just by not touching things and being careful, so that's always a method you could try yourself. So that's how you change your inner and outer tie rod ends.